Hi guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to make a terrarium for $0. That's right, you can be totally broke and still make this from stuff around your house and around your neighborhood. So, we're going to start off with our jar, obviously. That's going to contain the entire terrarium. And then we're going to add something called the drainage layer, which is basically just a reservoir for all of our water. Then we're going to add the mesh, which is basically a filter to stop our soil from seeping into the reservoir water. And then above that, obviously, we're going to add our actual soil, which people like to call substrate. And then finally, for the most fun part, we're going to add some decorations like rocks and stones and maybe a branch or two. So yeah, I looked around the house for some suitable jars and I found this pasta jar that had already been cleaned out. And then for the drainage layer or the reservoir part, I found these marble nuggets. For the filter, I cut out a square of my old shorts. For the soil layer, I collected some soil from my backyard and I mixed it with some sand. And then as for decorations, I just went outside and looked for a couple. I found a pine cone, a branch, and I also had some like old petrified wood lying around. For the hardest part was the moss. So this is the living component of our terrarium. And to get it, I just went outside and I found it under a tree. Obviously, I don't like to take stuff just from the environment, so I made sure to also pick up the litter that was around there. Alright, so now it's time to build our terrarium, and the first thing we're going to do is start to add the stones. So you can see me trying to scoop it in with a plastic spoon, but it took too long, so I just had to start using my hands. Cool, and then after this, we have to add our filter, and to be honest, this was probably the hardest part of it. That filter really just doesn't like to stay down. So after we've added our filter, now we can pour on our soil. And you can just see me, I'm spooning it in. You can just see me there adjusting the soil. I want it to be patted down so there's no air gaps left between it. Cool, and then finally we're gonna add in our moss. So you can just see me bringing in those like almost pads of moss and pressing it really down into the soil so it can be firm there and grow. Cool, so after our moss, we can add a couple of decorations. I decided not to use the branches and the pine cones because they were a little bit too big for this terrarium. But I chose two stones that I liked and put them in there. I didn't like one of them actually, so I took it out and I replaced it with another one. And now this is the finished result. So hopefully you learned a couple things from this video, and just keep in mind this was my first time ever making terrarium, so this is definitely beginner friendly. And yeah, thanks for watching.